Fetid Bubble News. We are going to talk about the inside look on Land in the Forest, where to place your... No, I'm just kidding, guys. This video was requested by ScuviT, and we're just gonna go check out some good locations to place your base. So I'll be going over some of the pros and cons of the locations that I've picked. There are a lot of locations that you can make work, especially if you use some of the indestructible traps and tips like that. So there is a lot of locations that you can make work, and so if you find a spot that you like, it's most likely that you can do something with it. Don't be afraid to stick there. I have picked these locations for particular reasons that I will point out, and I've seen them beneficial for one reason or another. But again, if you have a location that you like the most, go ahead and put it in the comments or just keep using it. Alright, let's go on to the first locations. Alright, so the first one is the beach. Now the beach is good for a number of reasons. You have an open space, and that's important if you want to build large structures without worrying about the trees. And you should worry about them because trees do come back each update, and they'll come back even if you cut them down or you explode their stump. At least so far. That might change in the future. You have turtles, which is a good source of food if you have a drying rack. You have birds, which if you wanted arrows, good source there. You have the luggage, which will get you some candy bars and some snacks. You have good visibility. You also have the yacht nearby as an emergency run-to base, because it does have a save point inside of it. There is a con with this beach though, and that con is the cannibals will come and get you pretty early on. They kind of run around the edges sometimes, and they're going to find you. And because the space that you build is probably going to be visible at all times, they're just going to attack you early on and keep on at it. So that doesn't make it the most early game friendly base you could build, but it's still it's a solid location. Alright, if you turn around and you head about a 45-degree angle past these rocks, you're going to either head into a clearing, which case you'll turn left, or you'll be at a lake. At the center of this lake is a pretty good spot to build. I'll example a build in a little bit, because imagine some people are thinking, what, build on those rocks? But the good thing about this area, besides cannibals not being able to reach you, which is really cool, is that you have all these supplies near you. You have the beach near you, you have the cannibal camp near you, which you can get cloth and the luggage here too. There will be some activity around this area, but if you built your base right, you shouldn't be actually reachable, even though there's activity nearby. And Cave 2 has a lot of early game supplies. As you see, here's my idea of what you could put on that rock. You don't need to use a raft. You can build a bridge, but you want to make sure it's a type of bridge that cannibals have a hard time getting across, which is generally kind of like one of those tree bridges. Or you can build some other structure if you want. Now if you follow this path, you can kind of see it on the ground here. You'll get to Cave 2. Cave 2 has a lot of good supplies. I'll make a video on that later. Native Killer has a guide that's written as well if you wanted to do that. He's the one that actually recommended me to check out Cave 2, so thank you there. Also, real quick, I just show right here that you can set up a trap, a happy birthday trap in specific, and when it's triggered, the cannibals can't run through it and they can't tear it down either. Which means you can turn this little hut and other areas into indestructible bases. So if you use these benches, you can actually get through the walls without having to set the trap up and down, which is kind of a cool tip. For this next area, it's kind of special because you have this little path that you can see. It's made of rocks, and that makes it hard for the cannibals to adjust with it, and so you're going to see reduced interaction with cannibals for multiple reasons. One, it's not in a normal area that they run by, so they won't find you as quickly, most likely. They can't get down here very well. You can block this doorway here if you wanted to make it even harder for them to get to you. It's a wide open area, good for building. You're next to the respawn village that you come out of when you die, right here. And you can actually find it from this point as well. You're also next to a bunch of turtles and fishes. You might have to go to the other islands on the side to get to those turtles and fishes. But again, it's a pretty protected area, so you can kind of just do whatever you want. And it's not too far away from resources, which is nice, because the other islands that are available here, they're kind of far away, and that makes them kind of a pain. So if you look, you can see you have an access to a number of islands, and I only saw turtles spawn specifically on this island, but it's still a pretty close, easily to access resource. The next area is actually further down the coastline that we saw, but I'm showing another way to get there. Now it's special because you have a cliff edge that's protected, you don't have to build a wall, and because you don't build a wall, you'd have good vision radius around you. On another side, there's a cliff wall protecting you. Cannibals can jump down cliff walls, but they don't prefer to do that if they can run to you, so as long as you don't encourage them, you're fine. You're near some supplies, not a lot of supplies, but it's still a well-protected area, and you could draw a bridge to the other side or something like that. So you have an easily protected area with great vision radius, and you have some fresh water on the opposite side of the island, and down below you could also get some turtle meats and stuff. Resource density is not crazy high there, but it's acceptable, and it's really easily to defend with great vision. On the opposite side is where you'd have a freshwater pond. Not only that, but you could just go to the lakes down below. And there's actually this little spot that you could easily defend again, because you have the cliff side, and you just have to build like a trap wall on either side here. You see in the center, you could really defend that spot really easily. The waterfall might get annoying though. And resource density is not so high here again. Now this spot was picked not because there's resources nearby, there are. You're also going to have some cannibals nearby, that's not so special. But as you're watching, you have these two streams with 2 waterfalls, 4 waterfalls, 6 waterfalls. Keep on going, go past this Cannibal Village which has some supplies. Another 2 more waterfalls. So 8, 9, 10. What's this? No, it couldn't be. Like 11 waterfalls, maybe 12, depending on how you count them. But this is the most waterfalled area you could build a base in. So if you're just thinking, I want a waterfall base, I want the most waterfalls possible, this is your area. You also have this really pretty looking lake up here, although you do have to be concerned about temperature and stuff like that while you're up here. So I wouldn't recommend staying up in the snowy part too much, especially unless you get deer skin to give you some heat protection. But very pretty up here. Crazy amount of waterfalls. There are some basic resources nearby, but there's not really any particular special defenses that you could have with that area. Alright, this next area is called Geese Lake. I'm not including it because it has any special features terrain wise. A lot of the areas I've chosen have good terrain features to make them easily defensible, give you good vision or something like that. I've included this one kind of like the previous one because it's really pretty. You can build in the center of this lake to actually make it very defensible, but that will require making platforms or building close to the waterfall, which could be noisy. But this area is pretty. You do have a tunnel within the water itself to Cave 5, but I recommend having a rebreather, otherwise it could lead to death. There is a lot of cannibal activity on this. They like to run by this lake a lot in my experience. Even more so than the other lake I showed you that's by a cannibal village. But it's a really pretty spot with loads of resources nearby. So at this point, hopefully I've shown a number of really helpful locations to build. And you might wonder, what about this area, or what about the containers found on the side of the beach? The containers, for example, you can actually get hit by firebombs through the container itself if you're near the walls. So the locations I've picked have been easy for resources, easy to defend, except maybe the waterfall one, just because I thought that was fun. But that's what I've been aiming for, and you can make nearly every location work in this game. So if you like a location, just build there. But the locations I've picked should be fairly easy to get going and just stay defensible forever. hopefully that helps, and I hope everybody has a great day. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave them down below. Peace.